Hello everyone and welcome back to GPVWC. This is the Formula Sprint 1 Championship Round 3 from the Melbourne Grand Prix circuit at the Albert Park. The new layout of the circuit actually, which takes out some of the corners that we had before, the chicane there down at the start of Sector 2, and makes the circuit generally a little wider and faster. So the drivers are going to have to get used to that, and would have been doing a lot of practice to get their heads around it. I'm not being joined by Ross McIntyre today, unfortunately, as that graphic says. He has unfortunately had to pull out at the last minute. I don't know why, but I hope that he will be able to watch this either live or back afterwards. And if you do, hi Ross. Sorry, don't know why I called you Rob. And of course, the broadcast director is Szymon Frelik. He's providing you with all of the cameras, sights, and sounds that you can see right now. As you can see there, a 5.3 kilometer long circuit, pretty much, meaning a 29 lap race 1 and a 19 lap race 2. That's about what we usually get. It's going to be a pit stop in race 1 and a straight sprint in race 2 with a partially reversed starting grid. So that's just your brief rundown of the proceedings for today. Let me get up the live timing. Let's see who's doing what, because the qualifying session is now underway, and we've got 15 minutes of qualifying here at the Albert Park circuit before we go to the first of the two races. Obviously, no one's actually set a flying lap just yet, but everyone is out on the track and about to start their first attempts. We're watching Owen McGorgy here, and that's a good place to start actually, because Owen is a pretty quick driver. In fact, a very quick driver. He is currently third in the championship after having won the second race at the Imola circuit. Let's watch this lap on board with him. I believe turn 1's been slightly widened, although it is pretty much the same as it always was. Then you get the DRS open on the exit of turn 2. There isn't an extra DRS. Whoa, that's a big slide, and he's going to abort that lap. Into the gravel he goes. As I was going to say, there isn't an extra DRS detection zone there. Actually, let's watch this corner first. Look how fast and wide that corner is now. That's probably one of the main changes on the lap now, aside from the chicane, of course, which would have been right where we are now, but is no longer there. But yes, as I was saying before, no second DRS detection zone, meaning that if you're in the DRS in the start-finish straight, then you will also have DRS up through turns, between turns 2 and 3, even if you've already passed the person that you were getting DRS off of. We've just been past a very interesting corner there. I think it's turn 11. It's the one at the end of the third DRS zone. And the reason I find that corner interesting is because that's one of the corners that looks like it's been radically changed when you look at it on a track map. But it's actually driven pretty much exactly the same as it always was before, in the way that the apex is pretty much where you used to apex anyway. It really astonished me when I was driving the Formula Sprint 2 race, just how similar the track felt to the old layout. Because when you look at everything that they've changed and the amount of work that's gone into it, it's a little strange. You know, you'd expect to see it change a little more. Anyway, the first few laps are coming in now. Jake Dennehan, top of the times so far, followed by Tom Stevens and Darius Andre. You can see the times on the top left-hand side of your screen there. There's Philip Koenig going 12th. These are only the... Oh, and that is... Oh, Craig Patterson trying to make his way back to the pits on 3 wheels here. And the reason he's not just giving up is because if he can make it back to the pits, he can go again. And he's going to need to, because he hasn't set a flying lap. But that car is absolutely total, so he has done an immense amount of damage to that. It's not just missing wheels or everything, it's crabbing down the straights. Amazing stuff that Craig Patterson is actually trying to get that car back now. Mike Quint there, purple in the first sector. Unlike in Formula 1, purple sectors don't necessarily mean the driver is fastest of all in those specific sectors. It simply means that they are faster than the fastest lap that has been seen in the session so far. And really that's what's important, as Quint goes 4th overall. Casper Mikulak heads back into the pit lane now. And Kenneth Singleton's had a big one there, huge crash in the S's, and that car's going nowhere, because not only is that also on 3 wheels, much like Craig Patterson's car, but it's also missing a rear wheel and it's on fire. So yeah, you are not getting that one back, no matter who you are or how good you are at controlling damaged race cars. I'm afraid that one's a little totaled. Moritz Kropp here. Moritz was talking to me before the race, and actually he described this track in a very clever way. He said it's like Albert Park but Jedified, which and by that of course he means that it's been made faster and wider and a bit more like a street circuit, especially this sector that we're going through now on board with Oren Magorgi. You can see how the track has like pretty much no runoff, and it just kind of sweeps right and then left and then right and then left, and yeah, very much like the Jeddah Corniche circuit. So I can definitely see what he's saying about that. But then you get this corner, which again, it looks so different to how it used to, but it's driven pretty much exactly the same. The only real difference now is that there's more curb on the outside, so the drivers can kind of be enticed into taking a little bit more of a risk into there. But it's not really an overtaking opportunity, even though you have a DRS straight before it. The DRS straight is so short, and the braking zone is so short that you can't really do anything with it. Magorgi there, setting the second quickest lap, just a 10.5 off Jake Dennehan. Szybiński sets his first lap, and it's 19th. And here's a new driver for today, Rafael Lukaszewski. I checked his stats. He is not entirely new to GPVWC. A couple of weeks ago, he drove in the South African Academy round. He finished 8th in both of the races in that, and has obviously decided to take quite a big jump to move up straight to GPVWC Super League. Obviously, Smile Power Racing, Mike Bell's team, believe in him. Darius Andre there was all over the grass when we came to him. He's got the purple first sector time, but ran the risk of getting his lap invalidated there, and even if not, may have lost some time. I was interested by one of the drivers that we were on board with earlier, who took a lot of grass on the entry to that newly widened corner, which was fascinating because I wouldn't dare to have done that in Formula Sprint 2. I feel like the car would have just understeered off the road. But if he can make that stick, then obviously it extends the track, and I mean, it won't give you any more grip, but it may just about be faster. I just didn't think the car could do that necessarily. Jason Muscat goes up to 10th. Let's see what Andre does. Oh wow, it's still pole position there. That's a quick one. 122.676. Obviously still a long way to go, but we now have TCS Off Racing 1-2 in this session. Darius Andre and Jake Dennehan, the two title rivals from last year's Formula Challenge Championship, which is now known as Formula Sprint 2. Talking of FS2, Maciej Heiler was racing in FS2 earlier this year, and he has now stepped up to FS1 as well. Goes up to 7th, not bad whatsoever from the Santon Motorsports driver. And now we look at Frank Hamming with the HGP Motorsport car. Frank Hamming currently struggling in the sorry, he's actually not driven in this championship yet, has he? He's been racing elsewhere. He has. Why can't I see him on the time? Oh, he's second. Sorry, my apologies. I knew he had been driving in this series. I just got really confused. Yeah. So as I was trying to say, he's been struggling a little in this session compared to what he's been doing previously in this championship, as he's second in the standings. And okay, 6th in the session is not bad, although he's about half a second so far off Darius Andre, who hasn't had the same kind of success in the races. So it's been a little bit of a swap between the two of them so far. Yeah, thank you for reminding me about that, Szymon. I just couldn't see him on the timing screen or on the standings for some weird reason. Vincent Gutt there stays 19th, possibly starting a new flying lap there. Let's talk you through the championship quickly before things really start to get hectic. I might as well go over it again in warm up, but of course it is Moritz Krupp leading the championship after the second round. He's finished on the podium in 3 out of the 4 races so far this season, and is 11 points ahead of Frank Hamming, who's second. With 1 win to his name. Also with 1 win are the 2nd and 3rd place drivers of Owen McGorgy and Tom Stevens. You see McGorgy on your screen right now attempting to improve, and is improving currently on his 3rd place time. Murray Watson is 5th in the championship, and then it's Mike Quint, there is Andre, Jake Dennehan, Damien Kardash, and Alexander Rogoza, the top 10. TCS Off, of course, currently have their cars 1-2 in this session. They are only 4th in the team's championship by Nocturne, HGP, and Nova, and ahead of Gallery 82. So that is how they stand. And so far, Nocturne, the only team with 2 wins. No drivers with 2 wins just yet. McGorgy does slightly improve his lap and splits the 2. Oh, and a big crash for Jake Dennehan. And if he can't get it back to the pits, then he will not be taking pole position, and he does not. So Dennehan crashes out of qualifying as we have under 5 minutes to go now. McGorgy splits the 2 TCS Off racing cars, and they will not be able to come back to a 1-2. And now we've got to keep an eye on the times, because this is crunch time. This is when the times start to tumble, and we start to see where everyone actually is. Perseus Miram is currently 24th. And jumps up to 22nd. Something also just quickly to keep in mind is that we have a couple of penalties coming to this round. Interestingly, both for the same driver, Jamie Bradfield, who actually isn't here, so maybe it's not something to keep in mind because it does not matter. Yes, okay, so everyone else does not have a penalty to serve by the looks of things. Yes, okay. A couple of warnings after the last round, but warnings, of course, are not anything too serious, so long as you don't commit the same offence once again. Craig Patterson, P18 in the session so far, a little bit down in the 2nd sector. Not a horrendous lap, but and he's going to complete it, possibly go into another one. We're at the stage in the session where you can start to go for 2 laps in a row and not really worry too much about running out of fuel or anything like that. Here's Tom Stevens. First we've really seen of him in this session. Where does he go? He stays 4th. Was a little bit of an improvement, but stays 4th. Actually quite a big gap between the top 3 and 4th place there, if you look at the times. Close from 5th back to 11th, but between them there is some, or ahead of them there are some quite big gaps there actually. Alexander Rogoza out of the final corner now. P12 and P10, so jumps into the top 10, which is a completely arbitrary number. Points in this series will go down to 15th, and even then only in the race. You don't get anything for qualifying, but it just feels good to be in the top 10, you know? It's like the difference between 10th and 11th just feels so much more significant than, say, you know, 11th and 12th or 9th and 10th or whatever. And it kind of is more significant as well because it's a different row of the grid. Craig Patterson now in the Nova Simracing car, a little way off his teammate Owen McGorgy, who's 2nd place in this session so far. Patterson only can manage 17th. And who's just gone quicker? Frank Hamming now up into 4th place, so Hamming goes quicker. Muscat up into 7th. So right now, Andre, McGorgy, Dennehan, Hamming and Stevens are the top 5. Stevens and Dennehan are in the pits. Dennehan after a crash. Neither of those 2 will be able to go any faster. And pole position now is down to Andre, McGorgy and Hamming. Here we are on board with McGorgy once again. You see, using the grass on the entry to the corner was just about within the limits on the exit. I'm surprised the car has the grip and the stability to do that and doesn't get unsettled and understeer or just kind of snap around and I'm doing that. He certainly wouldn't be doing that in the wet, mark my words. Anyway, through the weight chicane and out towards the 3rd DRS zone. this DRS zone pretty much just for keeping cars together rather than actually providing a proper overtaking opportunity. Over the curb on the inside, it's much harsher than it looks there. It can really launch the car. And then into the penultimate corner and towards the final corner where you can really gain or lose time. And it catapults you onto a long straight. And at the end of that, we will see what his time is. It's an improvement, and he's less than half a tenth of a second off. Owen McGorgy just misses out on pole, and obviously is going to abandon the session now. But so has pretty much everyone else that could have challenged Darius Andre. McGorgy's in the pits, as are Denahan, Hamming, Stevens, and Quint, and Muscat. So I'm pretty sure that Darius Andre has taken pole position here at Albert Park. Amari Watson crosses the line and goes P6. An improvement there. Damien Kardash has been struggling. That's uncharacteristically low in the order for Damien. Where does he end up? Does he manage to elevate himself to 13th? Okay. Not too bad. Mike Bell now in the PB racing car. Of course, Mike Bell also the Smile Power team boss, although races for a different team. DRS open, and he's going to be one of the last drivers to finish his flying lap. If not the last, goes 25th. And that's the session. So, Darius Andre has indeed taken pole position here. I'll wait briefly before giving you the full rundown, because we'll see a graphic for that on the screen in a few moments' time. But it is Andre on pole, followed by McGorgy, there you see it. Jake Denahan third in the TCSoft racing car, a good qualifying for TCSoft despite the crash. Frank Hamming fourth, then Tom Stevens, Amari Watson, Mike Quint, Jason Muscat, Moritz Kropp, and Alexander Rogoza. Ignore the slightly glitchy times. That happens sometimes when drivers briefly duck out the server, even if they're coming back again. Sorry, what was that? Yes, so Stevens and Kropp have briefly left the server, but they should be coming back. Maciej Heiler will be P11, then it's Adrian Faber, Damien Kardash, Menno Klont, Alex Lahore, Tom Parker, Gijs Sonneveld, Matthias Schiabinski, Philip Koenig, and Craig Patterson. Those are the top 20. And then Vincent Gutt, Perseus Miram, Rafael Lukaszewski, Martin Buchan, Mike Bell, Casper Michalak, Gerrit de Vries, James Lambert, and Kenneth Singleton will round out the field. It looks like there are going to be 29 drivers in the race today, meaning we're missing one. And I'm not sure entirely which one that is, but whatever the case, 29 cars, still a very good, very sizable grid. That's 9 cars more than you get for a Grand Prix, of course. So, since it's just me by myself today, I think we're probably going to take a 5-minute break or so, and then we will be straight back for the start of race 1. Don't go anywhere, and we'll see you then. Welcome back everyone, we're ready for the start of race 1, or you will soon be ready for the start of race 1 of 2 here today at the Albert Park circuit. There you see it on the screen, we're in Melbourne, Australia, and the brand new layout of course, the one without the chicane in the second sector and the widened corners and altered runoffs. That's where we are, and it's going to be one of the first ever sim races at this layout. The Formula Sprint 2 race we had the other day may well have been the first ever organised sim race at the brand new Albert Park circuit, or at least a new layout anyway. We're of course going to see the first Grand Prix at the new layout in a couple of days' time. I say a couple of days' time, just over a week now. And this Formula Sprint 1 race should give us a good idea of whether the changes have worked and whether we should look forward to a good one or not. Who am I kidding? It's going to be good, especially with GPVWC Formula Sprint 1. Just under 3 minutes to go now until the start of the first of 2 races. Why don't you leave your predictions in the comments, guys? Let's see. Let's come back to it at the end and see if we can see who has a crystal ball. I recently got retweeted on Twitter quite a lot because in late 2019, someone asked me what my predictions were for the next decade, and I said that in the next few years there'd be 3 Grand Prix in 1 year in the United States, and of course the Las Vegas Grand Prix has just been announced, so maybe I should go and buy a lottery ticket or something. Probably not, but anyway, we'll see if any of you have the same abilities. Let's see who's actually in the YouTube chat today. Quite a few people I recognise as usual. Good to see. A few people letting Shipman know if his stream looks okay. Good. Thank you for streaming as always, Shimon. Husky says, do you get a penalty if you can't get to the pit in qualifying? Not quite. You do if you go back out onto the track again. That's one of the reasons that Jamie Bradfield has a penalty overhanging for if he comes back to Formula Sprint 1. But yeah, if you crash and you don't go back out onto the track, then you're absolutely fine. But yeah, it's why we saw Craig Patterson trying desperately to get his car back to the pits on 3 wheels, because I mean, he still had laps to set, he still had plenty of time to do it in, but he had an absolutely totaled car, and he couldn't just teleport back to the pits. If you're wondering whether he was going to get in other people's ways doing that or whatever, or was risking holding people up, there was no risk of that. It's one car qualifying. Every car had the track completely to themselves, meaning that none of the lap times you saw at the end of qualifying were influenced by slipstream or hold-ups or anything like that. It was just pure pace. You're seeing the two Multiforce cars going around with each other there, maybe getting a taste of what the track feels like with dirty air, and now they've both stopped and gone back to the pits. And we're about to see the checkered flag on this session as well, so it's about the right time to be pulling in. I'm trying to work out which of the teams only has one car here today. I'm not sure if it's any of the teams near the back of the order. Okay, I'll keep having a look for that and see if I can get back to you on that one. Pretty sure we had 29 cars last time as well. It seems to be the usual number, because I mean, I guess with when you're trying to get 30 people who may have other jobs or whatever, you know, no one here is a professional racing driver, even though they are pretty good. You know, things can come up and people can get ill and stuff like that. Michi Hoyer missed a couple of Super League races because he was ill with COVID earlier this year, and unluckily has returned now. Anyway, less about that. The checkered flag is now out on the warm-up session, so we're about to take over into the race session. When we head, sorry, what was that? Okay, so the second Friesland car is missing from the order. Thank you very much for that, Szymon, letting me know in my ear there what the 30th car was supposed to be. The race director just reminding all of the drivers and competitors to take care. Drivers and competitors, you know what I mean. And I've just got a message from the race director confirming that we have no outstanding penalties for today. That's always good. So yeah, the grid order that we saw is the order that they will be starting in. Just a reminder, Moritz Kropp is our championship leader, followed by Frank Hamming, Owen McGorgy, Tom Stevens, Amari Watson, Mike Quint, Darius Andre, Jake Dennehan, Damien Kardash, and Alexander Rogoza are the top 10, meaning that our pole sitter today, Darius Andre, is 7th in the championship, hoping to gain some ground. One of the reasons he's so far down compared to his pace is because he DNF'd in the first race at San Marino. But had pace there, and well, even though he's on the back foot, he's gaining back some ground. Now you see the cars teleporting to the grid. That's how we do it in sim racing. No need to go all the way around the track and have a slow build-up. We can teleport them out there and get them all going on the formation lap within a minute. And then, of course, 29 laps of racing ahead of us. Just a quick reminder of the tyre rules. Every driver needs to use at least 2 compounds of dry tyre during this race. And that means, of course, that they will all need to make a pit stop. And the top 10 must start on their qualifying tyres. Everyone outside gets free choice. We're away on the formation lap now, so let's take a look once again at the starting order for the first of 2 races here today. Darius Andre will be on pole for TCS Off Racing, Then we have the Nova Simracing car of Owen McGorgy, another TCS off, Jake Dennehan, and then the HGP car of Frank Hamming. Then it's Tom Stevens, Amari Watson, Mike Quint, and Jason Muscat. Heading back into the field, our championship leader was only able to qualify P9, which is still a fairly strong position, and he could get some strong points, but he's got some work to do. Alexander Rogoza is P10, then it's Mathieu Heiler and Adrian Faber, Damien Kardash, Mano Plant, Alex Lahou from Formula Sprint 2, and then Tom Parker, one of the more experienced drivers, has done Super League in the past. Hai Sonneveld, Mateusz Jabinski, Philip Koenig, Craig Patterson, who won a race or two last season. Vincent Gutt is P21, then Perseus Miram, Rafael Lukaszewski in his first race at this level, and then 24th is Martin Buchan, then it's Mike Bell, Casper Mikulach, Gerrit Vries, and James Lambert. And the final car on the grid, unfortunately all by his lonesome at the back, and will actually be starting from the pits, is Kenneth Singleton. He and James Lambert have decided to start from the pit lane in this race, so we'll have 27 cars on the actual grid. The race director is now urging drivers to close in the gaps. There's a big gap between Perseus Miram and Rafael Lukaszewski on the formation lap. Not entirely sure why, but it's closing up now. Let me take a look at the tyres as well. Let's see if anyone... Yes, okay, so Damien Kardash is the top driver on the medium compound, or the harder compound, as you see it on the screen there, as you also see a car leaving the pit garage. Lahou, Parker, Jabinski, Koenig, and some others further back are also on the hard tyres, giving them a different style of race to the other drivers around them. As for the drivers in front, though, it's going to be all about just getting away and building up the gap in the early stages, fighting with each other. Darius Andre and Owen McGorgy will be side by side on the front row of the grid, and it looks like someone dropped back and had to regain their grid position there. A couple of drivers near the back of the field. Mike Bell missing his grid box slightly, but he's slotted in now, so we can start to see the lights. And when the 5 red lights go out, we will be underway for 29 laps of racing, which we are now. Power and Darius Andre powers past Lambert and the others waiting at the end of the pits and takes the lead. Darius Andre leads into turn 1 ahead of McGorgy, Dennehan and Hamming, the top 4. And then the rest of the field streaming through looks to be clean. A good start, actually. It's a difficult circuit to get a clean start at. Turn 3 is a real pinch point. Oh, car being tipped sideways. That might be Mike Bell. It's Tom Parker. So Parker goes sideways and around onto the grass, loses plenty of time. And Bell actually got a little battered around in that as well. So not a good couple of corners for the PB Racing cars. Now we're heading down to the Wake chicane, faster now than it ever has been before due to the longer run-up. And McGorgy slipstreams Andre, gets closer and closer, but it's not an overtaking opportunity. And we won't get DRS until lap 3 of the race. Dennehan third. McGorgy with quite a run actually on Andre out of the corner. Who's that? Kardash with a big hit into the wall. And someone spins in avoidance just behind him. And there's a couple more cars that may have been involved in that one, I think. Kardash has a wheel missing, and Vincent Gutt also has a wheel missing. So 2 cars appear to be out of the race, or near enough out of the race already. They're going to attempt to make it back to the pits, but that is a huge incident for Damien Kardash and Vincent Gutt, and that's going to ruin their races. I'm not even sure you can repair a lost wheel in this series. Here's on board with Tom Parker. Sorry, a little distracted by Owen McGorgy taking a look at the lead at the front of the order, but they're fine. They're still in the same order, so let's keep watching this replay briefly. Damien Kardash, we're going to see him flying off the road all of a sudden. There he goes, gets all over the grass and a big twitch, and oh my word, now that was brutal. And that is another advantage of this being sim racing. Those drivers will be perfectly okay after that, whereas in real life that would have been a horrendous accident that you would never like to see. back to the front. Magorki did take a little look at Darius Andre into turn 3 that last time around. It wasn't really ever going to be an overtaking opportunity, which is why I didn't scream frantically to call off the replay or whatever, but he certainly had a little glance, maybe just tried to remind Andre that he's there, put pressure on the leader. Moritz Krop is up 1 position since the start. He is in 8th position now. Side by side, Gijs Sonneveld and Menno Klont. Sonneveld up the inside, there's a touch. And that's going to allow Perseus Miram right into this fight. Miram gets hung out to dry on the outside. You don't really get marbles out there, but you do get a loss of grip. And it's just not the ideal line through the corner anyway. On to the 3rd lap of the race now. We will start to see DRS being active from the 3rd sector. Parker there had a little fight further back. Damien Kardash is out of the race after that accident at the start. Philip Koenig now into the pits as well. He's lost his front wing. So Koenig comes in, and Vincent Gutt is still in the pits and has been ever since he lost his wheel. And I'm not sure actually that even after the pit stop his wheel will work its way back onto the car. I'm not sure you can do that actually, but he'll try. Now you'll see the DRS open on the rear of Mike Quint's car. And side by side behind him are Krop and Rogoza. And Rogoza's trying to go around the outside of the championship leader. Gets on the curb, they bang wheels. And he's still there. There is a left-hander coming up, but it's not come soon enough for Alexander Rogoza there. And someone's dropping back. Craig Patterson and Alex Laho have come together. Laho had an eventful race the other day in FS2 with a couple of collisions, but then a podium. And today it looks as if he's had a lag spike, so that's what's caused it. Yeah, no. Yeah, well, we do see a replay, but it is a lag spike. And Alex Laho teleported straight back into Craig Patterson's car, and no fault of either driver there. So, big shame. Oh, just noticed that Lukaszewski's up into the points. Great start for Lukaszewski making his debut at this level. Not bad at all. Oh, and I may have cursed him because he's just run off the road. So down to 15th place now. Only 1 place lost. Perseus Miram is off the road. Oh, he's lost his rear wing. So Miram's had an incident there. Spins around trying to get his car back. No surprise there. It's very difficult to drive a car without a rear wing. And there's been an accident further back as well because Gerrit de Vries and Philip Koenig are also now missing. Frank Hamming up the inside of Jake Dennehan for 3rd place. And as I said earlier, that is not an overtaking opportunity. It would be very brave to do that. There are a couple of positions on this track, a couple of parts where you can theoretically make a move, but you need to get extremely lucky if you're going to actually make it stick. And that is one of those places, and into the weight chicane is another of those places. I'm going to take a quick look back at what happened to Koenig and de Vries as well, while you keep watching this fight between Hamming and Dennehan for 3rd place in the race. These two going for the last podium position and fighting hard. On my screen it looks like Gerrit de Vries never actually started the race, but that can't be right because he's registered as having done a couple of laps, so I don't know what's going on with my replays. I definitely have replays active, so that's a little weird, but anyway. Philip Koenig, of course, lost his front wing and then came back into the pits to retire, and that was all by himself there. Gorky's gap to Andre not coming out there at the front of the order. It's remained at around 0.7 of a second pretty much the whole way through. That's what we like to see. A nice tense battle kind of brewing. It's not exploding just yet, they're not side by side, but this is a relatively long race. It's going to be about maybe 40 or 50 minutes, and plenty of time for things to change, especially when the pit stops take place later on in this race. I'm afraid to say that what took Jarek de Vries out of this race was another lag spike, this time involving Mateusz Szybiński. And those are probably the worst kind of retirements to see in sim racing, because there's no fault of any particular driver, it's just completely bad luck. Szybiński up the inside of Mike Bell. Good move. They're not in the points, but they're fighting for position anyway. And Bell is going to come back at him now. He's got... Oh, and Tom Parker's taking him out! The teammates have come together. Szybiński bounced off the wall as well, gets away with his wings. But that just looked like Parker misjudged the whole thing. They call that the cardinal sin of motorsport when you hit your teammate like that. Whoopsie daisy. Also, talking of whoopsie daisy, Kenneth Singleton has just been into the wall and he is now out of this race as well. That was down at the penultimate corner. 4 retirements to this race so far. We might be about to add a couple more to our tally if what we just saw is anything to go by. Although all of those drivers still have their wings attached, interestingly. Here's Alexander Rogoza running 10th in the race, just behind Jason Muscat in 9th place. He has DRS. DRS relatively powerful in the opening sector of this circuit. It's still pretty difficult to overtake. You basically have to treat these two straights like one straight separated by a chicane, because they're both, as Rogoza goes up the inside and does make the move now. Good move from Rogoza up into 9th place. They're both activated by the same DRS detection zone. Meaning, of course, that, I mean, the ideal thing you want to do is pass them on the first straight, pass your opponent on the first straight, because then you still have the DRS on the second straight and you can accelerate away from them. But that's way, sorry as I accidentally banged my desk, but that's way easier said than done. As I'm sure that Frank Hamming can attest to, the bright green helmet inside the dark maroony red car. Another brief yellow flag. Anyway. Hamming just behind Dennehan, less than half a second in it. McGorgy about 6/10 behind Andre, just ahead. So I think the Dennehan-Hamming battle is a little more pressing at this point in time. And you can tell that Dennehan is nervous, weaves all over the road. Hamming gets close. If that was a heavy braking zone into turn 1, he probably would have had a go there. But he's going to have to go for it on the exit instead, because there is a heavy braking zone here, but it would have to be a real dive. Okay, well, he knows that Dennehan's nervous down that sector of the circuit. The trouble is, as Faber now gets up into 10th, does he almost makes contact with Muscat, who runs wide but keeps 10th position. Yeah, the trouble is that Dennehan knows, of course, where Hamming is likely going to go for a move as well, and that's why he was defending into there, because that is where Hamming was going to go for it. McGorgy close, Hamming closer down into the weight chicane. Now, in my opinion, I mean, they say that they've made the circuit so that overtaking is easier. I don't think they've altered the difficulty of overtaking whatsoever. In fact, they may have made it harder by removing the chicane in the second sector, because that could sometimes be an overtaking opportunity, especially on the opening lap of the race. And now they've got rid of that. What you've ended up with is a bunch of sweepers where you can be faster than the car in front, but you can't overtake them, because as soon as you go to the outside, which you will inevitably be forced to, you then start to lose speed because you don't have the slipstream anymore and you're taking a wider line. So you can't overtake down there. You don't have a braking zone into the weight chicane. And really what you need for creating overtaking opportunities is not, flat out sections, but heavy braking zones. You need more heavy braking zones, which you need flat out sections for. But anyway, I'm not entirely sure that they've done it right if they're intending to increase overtaking around here. With that being said, I've always actually liked how tricky it is to overtake at Albert Park, because it makes the drivers really work for it, you know? Oh, big twitch for Frank Hamming. Sorry, just caught that out of the corner of my eye. Frank saved it, but yeah, very, very twitchy. He's got Tom Stevens for company now. I've always liked how difficult it is to overtake at Albert Park because it makes the drivers work for it. They don't just go flying past each other in a straight line here, like they do at, say, Shanghai or maybe Baku or whatever. You have to set the move up several corners in advance. You have to be really quite a lot better than your opponent in terms of speed and racecraft. And the best thing about overtaking someone at this circuit is that you know they feel really embarrassed after you do, because this isn't normally a circuit you can overtake at. I think the yellow flag we just saw may have been a driver just getting out of the way of drivers a lap ahead after one of the many incidents we saw earlier in this race, because there are a few drivers who are a lap down now, continuing on in the race despite having lost wings and even a wheel in Vincent Gutt's case. Gutt is back in the race, he's 2 laps down, and yes, he does have all 4 wheels on his wagon. Oh, McGorgy's so close now, takes a look to the inside, and there you see what I'm saying, there's just not a heavy enough braking zone there to make the move. In a Formula Sprint 2 car you do touch the brakes there and you do change down a gear, but it's not heavy enough at all to make a move. In a Formula Sprint 1 car, you probably do even less than that because you have even more downforce here. It's flat out in qualifying, according to Szymon Frelik. Wow, that is crazily fast. I can see that in a Super League car potentially. Oh, McGorgy takes a look. And behind them as well, Hamming also taking a look at Denahan. Onto the second of the DRS straights they go. Look at McGorgy weaving. Is he just getting frustrated, potentially? I mean, that may partly be distracting Andre, but to be honest, I'm not sure Andre was really looking at that. He knew he was far enough ahead to avoid being overtaken. Often what I do in those situations is look at the live gap between me and the driver behind to see if I can assess how close they are and whether they can actually go for an overtake. But of course, if you're doing that, you can't see if they're weaving about like a maniac behind you, so Oren's gesture may be entirely pointless there. It's kind of the equivalent of in a GT car or a prototype, you'll often flash your lights at the car ahead of you, and some series have banned that because they genuinely do distract the driver in front. But in a single-seater, it's rather less effective because you don't have those flashy headlights. We're heading towards another DRS straight now, or the same DRS straight that we were watching before, just on another lap. We're going on to lap 12 of the race, nearing the time when I'd expect pit stops to start taking place. And pit stops would really spice this race up a bit, because right now McGorgy and Hamming are both absolutely stuck fast behind the TCSF racing cars and cannot find a way through. Hamming was relatively close that time. Not close enough. Tom Stevens is running 5th, Murray Watson still 6th, and then Mike Quint, Moritz Kropp, Alexander Rogoza and Jason Muscat. As there was another yellow flag, and James Lambert appears to be out of the race now. James was one of the drivers who started from the pit lane at the start of this, and I saw him trundling around giving way to cars that were lapping him, and now he's had an accident at turn 1 by the look of it. Back to the fight in the top part of the order. We're on board with Frank Hamming now and his bright green helmet. You can always tell Frank Hamming. You can see him coming from a mile off. It's a rather nice looking livery, although it is a little, I say dull, I don't mean that to sound like I'm calling it boring, but I mean it's a rather dark livery on the HGP Motorsport car, and it really makes his bright green helmet stand out. Denahan sees him coming from a mile off, just like I suggested, and goes defensive. That was a good run from Hamming there. He was a lot quicker than Jake Dennehan through the opening chicane. Takes a look to the outside now. And there's an inside... There's a left-hander coming up, so he's still there. Dennehan knows not to turn in, and he runs wide. He goes over the sausage curb, and a fantastic move there from Frank Hamming. He forced the mistake. He forced Dennehan to give him room, and he's made the move stick. Definitely the best move we've seen today. As he passes, someone's front wing was flying about there on the exit of the corner. Wasn't any of our leaders, you'll be pleased to know. Oh, and Rafael Lukaszewski just had a little half spin. Drops from 14th down to 15th. Still doing a good job in that Smile Power car ahead of his teammate, but only just, so he needs to be careful. And Tom Parker brought out the yellows. He's now lost his front and rear wing. He's recovering to the pits, and he's in the pits now. But yeah, the race going from bad to worse for Tom Parker, who collided with his teammate a few laps ago. And that was the couple of wings that we saw actually on the stream, because that was on the exit of that corner there. The brand new widened, I think turn 6 it's technically classified as, possibly turn 7. It's the right-hander anyway. And it is a very difficult corner, but he's lost it in a very different way to how I'd expect. Normally, I mean, I've seen quite a few people clip the inside wall there, because the inside wall is now right up against the track. But he just lost on the curb on the outside, and now he rejoins the race. 24 cars remaining in this race now. 21 of them are on the lead lap. A few of them set to be lapped before the end of the race, definitely, judging by the lap times. Hi Sonnevel just passed Craig Patterson down into turn 1. That's for P13 in this race. And with points going down to P15, that is relatively valuable. Lukaszewski there into the pits from 15th in the race, and we wait for the main pit stop window to take place. Patterson and Sonnevel are side by side again. Sonnevel comes out on top out of that one. The battle for third now registered as being between 5 different drivers there. You have 4 drivers getting DRS from that train there behind Frank Hamming. Hamming himself getting away a little though. And into the pits comes Darius Andre. So Andre in from the lead of the race. It's rare you see the leader coming in first, but obviously part of his strategy, going to come out relatively close to Rogoza, who comes into his box behind. Everyone who you see coming in on the red wall tyre will be going to the yellow wall tyre, the harder compound. Ooh, comes out in a little bit of traffic there. That's Mike Bell. And everyone you see who comes in on the... Sorry, it was Tom Parker, and someone's lost it there on the exit. Hi Sonnevel has lost it. Oh, he tried to enter the pit lane, and he missed it. Did he hit the pit wall, maybe? No, he's missed the pit lane, and he's decided to reverse on the road and enter the pits, despite having completely missed it. And then collides with someone else in the pit lane, too. And he's just gone around an extra lap. It's not like he... I mean, sometimes you see that in endurance races because cars don't have enough fuel to make it round another lap. But, I mean, in his case, you can't refuel, so it's not that. It's simply that he couldn't wait another lap to come in for tyres. That was really bizarre. And you're not allowed to do that, so you may get a penalty. Jake Dennehan now in the other TCS off car. They've both decided to pit relatively early. And where he comes out in relation to Darius Andre will be very important here. He's already putting the power down. Where's Andre? Andre only coming out the final corner here. It is a relatively long pit lane, but I think Dennehan might take the lead. So Dennehan has jumped Andre by going a lap longer on the softer and faster tyre. Darius may have had a little bit of damage potentially. He now gets a run. Is he going to pass his teammate into turn 3? He goes for it. He dives up the inside. He's going to have to give way. Look at that. They lock wheels. And they almost lock wheels again into the second of those apexes. Darius Andre gets through. Jake Dennehan drops back, but yeah, the Cardinal Sin of Motorsport committed again. Ignore the car directly behind Jake Dennehan there. That is Tom Parker, who's a lap down. Yeah, some weird occurrences happening in this race the last couple of laps. And McGorgy and Hamming will now be fancying their chances, because that would have held up both of the TCS off cars. And it looked as if Andre may have held himself up slightly by pitting earlier. So can Owen McGorgy take the lead here? Frank Hamming is in the pits. McGorgy stays out longer to try to benefit from that overcut. Where are the TCS off cars? They're coming through the final couple of corners now. Frank Hamming is going to put the power down any second. He does. And he, I think, is going to come out ahead. Oh, they're going to be side by side into turn 1, are they? That's Darius Andre on the outside, who sweeps past him, so he splits the two. And now Dennehan will have a go at him, much like Andre did on Dennehan a lap ago. Goes to the outside. Let's see if they can keep it cleaner this time. They turn in, and once again there's wheel-to-wheel contact. They don't lock wheels in the same way, and Dennehan does get through, so Hamming just about misses his opportunity to get past both TCS off cars. He was very close to doing so. And he's still all over the back of Jake Dennehan. Now, will that prompt Owen McGorgy to come in this lap, or will he think, well, if I stay out longer, I get even more time on these soft tyres? Moritz Kropp, meanwhile, that's a move on Mike Quint. So up into P4 goes Moritz Kropp now. Good move. Do a twitch from Dennehan. Hamming's got a run here, down into the... Hamming up the inside, and Hamming goes back through, and he runs wide and gets a little bit of a clobber for his efforts. Watson and Stevens now into the pits, but yeah, that was close there between Dennehan and Hamming, because Dennehan made a mistake out of the weight chicane, and Hamming thought, I've got to go now, no matter what, and he went for it. He went for it well and truly. McGorgy stays out for another lap. Watson comes out behind this battling pair, but not too far behind. He's having a decent race so far, is Amari. Down the straight. There's Frank Hamming. So McGorgy currently leads the race by 9 seconds over Moritz Kropp. Although Kropp, well, they're both still to pit. All of the top 3 are still to pit. As is Menno Klont in 10th place. I thought he was doing a bit better in this race than that. Anyway, Gorgie doing what I suggested, staying out later. Well past the halfway point in this race, it shows you that tyre wear isn't a huge consideration here. But it's interesting because in the Formula Sprint 2 race, I had a lot more tyre wear here than I did at either of the first 2 rounds of the championship. But these cars handle very differently, and they're racing in a very different way. And McGorgy has been able to extend it. He comes into the pits, followed by our championship leader, Moritz Kropp. And where they come out will be crucially important in deciding the net order of this race. Andre comes out the final corner. Towards turn 1, he's going to see McGorgy emerging from the pits. In the lead, as I expected, Owen McGorgy does take the lead of the race. He jumps the TCS off racing car of Darius Andre. Watson comes out ahead of Kropp there, so Hamming and Watson keep ahead of Moritz Kropp's Nocturne car. But Kropp, I think, has gained a place in there somewhere because he was running 8th early in the race, and now he is in P7 ahead of his Nocturne teammate Tom Stevens, who's been a little anonymous by his standards in this race so far. No disrespect to Tom, he's probably one of the best drivers here, if not the best. But considering he got first in the feature race at San Marino and second in the feature race at Bahrain, he would be disappointed if he comes away from this one with 8th. Still race 2 to go, of course. Don't you forget about that. Muscat leads the race temporarily. He's still on the soft tyres, isn't he? So it's not that he's stayed out longer on hards. He comes into the pits. And now Owen McGorgy will lead this race. by about 1.5 seconds, so no DRS there for the leaders, or for Andre in second place. Owen McGorgy has not just taken the lead, he has extended it. He has taken the lead with both hands. 2 seconds now ahead of Darius Andre. Jake Dennehan is then about 3 seconds or 4 seconds behind them. About 3 seconds, actually. Muscat comes out P9. Keep getting confused by the car of Tom Parker, who keeps popping up in these lead battles, although of course because of his incident he is a lap down and he's having to get out of the way of everyone he sees blue flags for. Moritz Kropp now up into P6, has gained a couple of places. He started P9 in this race. His next target is Amari Watson, who is catching pretty fast here. The fastest driver on track is still Darius Andre. We're yet to see the fastest lap change after the pit window though, as it usually does due to the lower fuel of this car. Usually lower fuel outweighs softer tyres, but we'll see. And of course there's a shorter slice of this race to go now, so they can just push. They don't have to conserve their tyres anymore. It will just be a straight fight to the end now. Andre only just has the fastest lap, only just over Owen McGorgy, and a couple of other drivers are quite close as well. Andre, his gap last time round seemed to come down slightly to McGorgy. It's definitely not over yet. They're within 2 seconds of each other. McGorgy's lap was a 1:24.9. Andre's lap was a 1:24.8, so they're close. And in fact, it was in the high range of 1:24.8, so they were actually very similar laps there. Andre does seem quicker in the first sector though. Dennehan and Hamming still close over third place there. And then you have the fight between Watson and Kropp and Stevens now for 5th, 6th and 7th. Who else have we got fighting within the points paying positions? We've got Patterson and Hylett for P13. Fortunately, Mikulak's had an incident. Mikulak missing both his front and rear wing. He was running about 16th, I think, in this race, and he's lost it on the exit of turn 2. Very similar to the accident that took Jens Lambert out of this race earlier on. Alex Lahoud also now out of this race, I'm afraid. So Moritz Kropp gets a run on the exit of turn 2. Still catching Amari Watson. Still needs another lap in order to make that move. Ooh, Hyla side by side with Patterson. I think everyone's pitted in this race now. It will be extremely late in the day if they haven't. Yeah, there you go. Vincent Guts pitted 3 times, partly due to damage repairs. Of course, he had that humongous accident with who was he had his accident with earlier on? It was Kardash, that was it. Lahoud's accident was very similar actually to the one I've just seen for Kardash. Lost control and went into the wall on the exit of turn 2. Here's Jabinski now, getting stuck in. Going through to 14th place. Ooh, that's a bit rough. Bit of a dispute over who had the right to that corner there. Jabinski on the faster tyre, the red-walled soft tyre. And he gets it. 14th place right now. McGorgy, meanwhile, pulled out a couple of tenths of a second on that last lap. Ooh, a little bit of a look for Kropp. I think it's going to take a mistake from McGorgy if Andre is going to get himself back into this fight here. And Andre, I think, may have just made a little mistake there because he lost a... Oh no, he got held up by traffic. He had to pass his mirror arm in the built-in car there. That makes a lot of sense. because I suddenly saw him lose time. So I think Magorgi may have got past Miram a little quicker. And yeah, at this point in time, it really is going to take a mistake from Owen Magorgi if Andre is going to get back into the fight. And Moritz Kropp is still struggling to get past Omari Watson. Watson driving maturely. Moritz Kropp also driving maturely, not going for any silly dives or whatever. Not that he would. He's the championship leader for a reason. He won several races last year, and he's already got a victory this year as well. As Matthias Jabinski has lost his front wing, has he? Nope, still got it, but he did have a little off while fighting with Maciej Heiler. They may have touched, actually. Oh, they did. Both of them went spinning off at turn 3 while fighting for 14th place. More yellows, and that's because there's a car spun on the exit turn 2 who rejoins, hopefully safely. That's a dangerous place to have to rejoin from. Oh, it's High Sonneveld, and he's still there. And now he does rejoin safely. Okay, good to see. So Sonneveld lost plenty of time there. And if someone had run wide, that could have been a very nasty one. But he's back in the race now. A lap down. 17 cars still on the lead lap, by the way. Been a relatively attrition-filled race for a race 1 Formula Sim Racing. Not Formula Sim Racing, Formula Sprint 1 series. Sorry, I probably just committed blasphemy against GPVWC there. but anyway. The gap between the leaders now out to 3 seconds, so Owen Magorgi is getting away after taking the lead. He looks set to become the first driver to win 2 races this season, and it'll be a sprint race and a feature race. Denahan went really defensive from Hamming there. I mean, nowhere near close enough for a move. He's just trying to stop him from getting closer to the back of his car there. And that little yellow flag you saw was Sonneveld again, having another spin on the same lap, I'm afraid, so I feel like he's probably ruined those tyres, or is maybe just getting a little bit fatigued. He's still got an entire second race to go, so he'd better not be. But it is at around this stage that the drivers will start to have their minds wander a little, potentially. And maybe that will lead to mistakes. Denahan still making no mistakes there in 3rd place. Wants to bring home a double podium for TC Soft Racing. Frank Hamming, the top HGP Motorsports car, a couple of seconds up the road from Omari Watson, who's next. The other Nova Sim Racing car is Craig Patterson, who's down in 13th place at this point in time. Still in the points, although Magorgi leading by over 3 seconds. Another yellow? It's Vincent Gutt this time. He's found himself in a very similar position to the position his teammate found himself in, except he's now retired from the race. So Gutt, I'm afraid, who was 3 laps down anyway, now becomes yet another retirement, the 7th of the race. 22 cars remaining now. Turn 1's been a real... Oh, and the not turn cars are swapping. So Stevens goes ahead of Kropp now, and it's going to be his turn to have a go at Omari Watson, just up ahead. I expect they'll swap back again if he can't get through, because Moritz Kropp is the championship leader and he's earned that position, and I don't think he made a mistake to let Tom through. But we'll see now if Stevens has anything to say for Omari Watson that Moritz Kropp couldn't previously say to him. Through the weight chicane, Frank Hamming in the other HGP car. I'm having a look back at that swap to see if Kropp did make a mistake, or if he just lifted off the throttle to let Stevens through. Yeah, it was the latter. It was very much a planned swap. It wasn't like in Bahrain where they swapped a couple of times where they weren't even intending to due to having incidents or whatever. This is purely tactical from the two of them. Mike Bell just had a brief off through the weight chicane. He's in 19th in this race. Big slide for Hamming. Did you see that? Not sure how well the camera caught that there, but that would have been a heart-in-mouth moment from Frank Hamming. Oh, let's see. Stays 4th. So Jake Dennehan on his way to what would be his first podium at this level, I think. In the YouTube chat, since it's died down a little, Ruben Machete says, how long can you take these soft tyres? Well, the longest we saw in this race was about 20 laps from Jason Muscat. So, a relatively long time. Well and truly enough for race 2. Race 2 is going to be taken easily on soft tyres. I think it would be too much of a risk for anyone to start on hards in race 2. I think this is a message from earlier on. The Iceberg says Owen will easily be in the lead. Darius had a very slow stop or something and lost like 6 seconds for some reason. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Szymon Frelik reckons it may have been damage on his car that needed to be repaired, or that he forgot to deselect. But yeah, he did seem to lose a lot of time, and Owen McGorgy is... I expected he'd be in the lead, and now he very much is. And extending that gap all the time. So we're on the penultimate lap of the race now. Only one to go after this one. And they pass a car missing both of its wings. That was Kasper Michalak, who stopped on the exit and retired. So Kasper Michalak becomes yet another DNF in this race. Down at turn 5. Hamming getting close. This is his best opportunity in a while, but it's into a dangerous part of the racetrack. And there you see what I mean. He can't get around the outside because he's taking a longer line and it's less grippy out there. And once again, Kropp and Stevens swap, so it's exactly what I suggested there. Oh, and Stevens made a mistake, so Kropp's now going to have a go at Watson by himself. So apparently it was that Stevens didn't let Kropp back through. I think he was going to anyway. I don't think it would have lasted much longer in those positions, but we'll never know for sure. Or it's Kropp with the DRS on the back of Murray Watson. Got rather close, despite having had to sit behind his teammate for a few laps. What about the exit? Can he get a good enough run to get through? DRS gaping wide on the back of the Nocturne car. There's one more DRS zone in this race to go. It's not normally an overtaking opportunity, but who knows on the last lap of the race. Mike Quint now on Jason Muscat. As for P8, they don't swap. Okay, so maybe they did swap. Apparently Jason may have been behind him already. Final lap of the race now. Lap 29 of 29. It's been a rather straightforward race, but you can't say that Owen McGorgy hasn't deserved it. He jumped Darius Andre in the pits due to a relatively slow stop from Andre, and a long first stint from Owen McGorgy. This sets him up very nicely for race 2 as well, because even though he's going to have to start further down the grid, he clearly has the pace for it, and he can clearly extend the tyres for it. McGorgy out of the final corner, and he wins the feature race here at Albert Park. Very good drive from him. Darius Andre is second, and it's TCSoft 2-3, so both TCSoft cars on the podium. Frank Hamming 4th, then Amari Watson. Moritz Kropp, our championship leader, could only manage 6, which again isn't bad, but he's going to lose a few points to his rivals there. Tom Stevens was 7th, then it's Jason Muscat, Mike Quint, Alexander Rogoza, Adrian Faber, Menno Klont, Craig Patterson, Maciej Heiler, and Martin Buchan. That's going to be Buchan's first point since his return to GPVWC. if he can fend off Mateusz Jabinski. That's going to be a relatively close one, actually, for P15 in the late stage of the race and the final point. And he has the DRS, does Jabinski. And he's going to go to the inside. Oh, that's pretty cruel. Oh, he's going to force Buchan off the road there. Yeah, that's pretty cruel for Martin Buchan because he was on his way to his first point since his comeback after many, many years of absence. But it's going to go the way of Mateusz Jabinski, at least provisionally. He crosses the line 15th now. Missing out will be Buchan, Lukaszewski, Bell, Sonneveld, Parker and Miram, and then all of the DNFs as well. Parker actually didn't cross the finish line in the end. Not entirely sure why that was, but maybe ran out of fuel or something along those lines. Maybe just gave up. He hadn't had a great race. Look at that smooking from Omagorgi's car. Looks to me as if Parker deliberately accelerated into the runoff, maybe. Had a throttle stick? I don't think you can get throttle sticking open in rFactor 2 unless it was a hardware failure. Anyway, there's the order once again. Magorki winning from Andre Danahan, and look at those spins. Spins of delight from Omagorgi as he wins race 1 of 2 here. Now once again, because it is only me on my own today, I'm going to go for a brief break just to refresh my voice, and then we will be back in about 5 minutes time to take you to the start of the second race of the day, which will be shorter. We'll have a partially reversed grid between positions 6 and 10, randomly selected, and then we will have an opportunity to go racing again. Don't go anywhere, we will be right back. Welcome back again, everyone, to Albert Park, Melbourne, of course, in Australia. We're getting ready for the start of the second race of Formula Sprint 1, of the third round of the championship. Race 1 was won by Owen McGorgy, and that was after a touch of, I say a touch of luck, although also a touch of brilliance over the pit window. He was so much faster than the drivers around him, and took the lead. We found out that apparently what happened to Darius Andre and why he lost so much time was as he was coming into the pits, he accidentally deselected the pit request button. And what that means is basically your virtual race team is then kind of basically convinced that you're not supposed to be pitting right then, so they're not ready for you. And even though they are a virtual race team, they still need a little bit of time to get ready. And if you come in unexpectedly, then you're going to lose a few seconds. And that's exactly what happened there to Darius Andre, which is why Owen McGorgy was able to pass him in the pit window and go on to win the race. But to be honest, McGorgy had a lot of pace anyway. It wasn't completely dominant pace. He would still have struggled to get past Andre on track, but he definitely could have done. And I may have jumped him even without the whole accidental deselection of the pit request. So who knows? Of course, we'll never know. But what we do know is that Owen McGorgy won that race fair and square. Leading up to the second race now, I'm expecting pretty much everyone to start this race on the soft tyres, because we saw in race 1 that it could go 19 to 20 laps. Jason Muscat proved that. He went, I think, 19 laps exactly, which is what we're going to do in race 2. And the reverse grid number has been drawn. It's 8, meaning that Jason Muscat will be starting on pole position, one of the veterans of the series, who was winning Super League races back in 2009. Jason, now racing for Multiforce in FS1. We'll start from pole position here, and I'll talk you through the full order when we see it. But of course, that also means that Magorgi will be starting from 8th position. And considering this is a circuit that is difficult to overtake at the best of times, it's going to be tricky for those drivers to gain ground. Once again, it would be nice if you guys left your predictions in the comments. Who do you reckon has what it takes to win this second race? Of course, the beauty of the partially reversed grid is that out of the top 8, theoretically, the driver in 8th position is faster than the driver in 7th, who's faster than the driver in 6th, etc., etc. And it means that any of those top 8 could win it. Of course, often it's not entirely like that, because you have drivers who may have had some bad luck in race 1 or didn't show their full potential, or maybe deliberately lost a position to give them a better reverse grid slot. But anyway, away we go on the formation lap. Let's take a look at how they line up for this round. We have Jason Muscat on pole position for Multiforce, followed by the 2 nocturnes of Tom Stevens and Moritz Kropp, who were closely matched in that last race. Amari Watson in 4th place might actually be my pick for the win here. He's got the racecraft for it. Frank Hamming 5th place, then it's Jake Dennehan, Darius Andre, and Owen Magorgi, the race winner of the first race today. Mike Quint is P9, just missing out. Then it's Alexander Rogoza, Adrian Faber, and Menno Quant. Moving back into the pack, Craig Patterson was right in the thick of the action. Then it's Maciej Heiler, Mateusz Zibinski, and Martin Buchan, who lost what would have been his first point of the season in 16th place. Rafael Lukaszewski is 17th. Then it's Mike Bell, Hij Sonneveld, and Tom Parker. Versus Miram, Kasper Michalak, Vincent Gutt, and Alex Lahoe will be 24th. But these are the drivers who didn't finish the race. Miram did see the checkered flag, but he was badly affected by incidents. James Lambert, Kenneth Singleton, Gerrit Vries, and Philip Koenig, P28. Do we have all 29 cars in this? Yes, we do. Damien Kardash will round out the field after his accident in the first race. So to the grid we go. 29 cars. The top 8 are serious contenders for this victory here, but again, it's a tricky circuit to overtake on. Niels Thiemann has given his predictions. He says Kropp will win, followed by Stevens and Watson. That's definitely a possibility. Kropp, Stevens, and Watson are 2nd, 3rd, and 4th on the grid. Not quite in that order. Stevens is starting ahead of Moritz Kropp, although Kropp, the championship leader, may have a slight advantage in that team over Tom Stevens at this point in time. We simply don't know until this race gets underway. We're just waiting for Damien Kardash now. He will be lining up at the back of the grid where he doesn't belong, but he crashed out in the first race, spun all by himself, and then got absolutely T-boned by Vincent Gutt. He'll line up at the back of the grid, angles his car. Now we wait for the lights. Muscat and Stevens are side by side on the front row of the grid, and the lights are about to go out, which they do now. So the race gets underway once again. Tom Stevens challenging the dropping back, so Kropp goes through to 2nd. The Nocturnes have swapped immediately, heading down into turn 1. Is it clean further back? There's a little bit of bumping and boring, but I think they're going to get away with their wings at least, which is good to see. Muscat defending into the corner, Kropp up the inside, and Kropp, who's on the hard tyres I've noticed, gets forced to the outside. Oh, they touch wheels. Sorry, no, he is on the softs. Into turn 5 they go, and Muscat keeps the lead. So it's Muscat, Kropp, Stevens. Couple of instances of contact further back. Lahoe's missing wings. Oh, Sonneveld and Michalak also involved. And there you see the debris and the carnage being left on the exit of turn 4. And side by side are the leaders now. Crop once again had a little look at Jason Muscat, and he's on the grass. And now Stevens is under pressure from Frank Hamming once again. Down into the right-angled right-hander. Newly reprofiled. Great defensive driving on the first lap from Jason Muscat. A lot of drivers would have given in to Moritz Krop here. We're going to see a replay as I keep an eye on Moritz Krop to make sure that nothing happens that we don't see. Here is Sonneveld's accident. Whoa, gets tangled up there. Oh, and a lot of contact further back. And that was where LaHoo lost both of his wings. It was LaHoo and Sonneveld who collided to start that, but there was also another car spinning in front of them, who may have been Mike Bell. Whatever the case, total carnage. Darius Andre, only P8 so far in this race, so he has lost a position. And that was to Owen McGorgy, the race 1 winner, is now up into 7th position after the start. Moritz Krop was really attacking at the start there, who he looked like he was going to take the lead from 3rd on the grid, but just about had to settle. Jake Denahan is the top driver on hard tyres in this race. He is in 5th position. Andre also on hard tyres. Interesting. So both the TCS off drivers obviously feeling that they can't go the full way on soft, or I mean, even if they could, they might not feel that it's worth it. LaHoo, Sonneveld and Michalak are out of the race after their accident at the start. No real surprise there. Philip Koenig's also just been for a spin. Luckily, he seems to have rejoined safely, although he is now down at the back of the order. Muscat pulls across, sees that Moritz Krop is coming. And we're on to lap 3 of the race. He won't get DRS down the 2nd straight because the activation zone was on the previous lap. But he will get it down the 3rd DRS straight towards the right-angled right-hander this time around. Through the car park. Turn 4 and then 5, which I think might technically be classed as turn 6 because there's a little kink in the 2nd long straight. Through the S's. We're watching Ziabinski as well. He's having a fight with Martin Buchan further back. These two swapped on the very last race of the very last lap of the first race. Krop gets close, takes a look to the inside. That would be very daring. I think he would probably have been a little better trying to set up for this DRS zone here, but it's tricky because the weight chicane, and this is why there's a DRS zone here actually, it's because the weight chicane creates so much kind of turbulence and really affects the cars running behind all of that turbulence. And you need a little DRS straight just to bring them back into contention and make sure that they don't have to sit a whole second behind the car in front of them. But anyway, even so, Krop lost a little more time than he may have done by having a go somewhere that it really wasn't going to work. There are the other 2 DRS straights of the lap. You have the start-finish straight, and then the one after turn 2. Again, through the car park they go. These two very, very close. Krop with the fastest lap of the race so far. The only driver under 125. Ziabinski having a look at Buchan with Tom Parker all over his rear. Parker, who was one of the drivers badly affected by incidents in the first race. And then, of course, lost out a lot with blue flags as well. Krop once again is going to catch Muscat into the weight chicane this time, although this time... Oh, he runs over the grass again. Just like he did on the first lap of the race, which arrests some of his momentum. Took a bit less of the curb than Jason Muscat, which may have helped him a little through that corner, because Muscat seemed to get a little unsettled. These two having a fantastic race so far, but you can see just how tricky it is to overtake. Especially how difficult it is to overtake someone such as Jason Muscat, who has so much experience, so much skill, both natural and acquired over time through muscle memory. He knows exactly what he's doing in that car. Towards turn 3, DRS flaps shut. They slam shut as the drivers put on the brakes, put on the anchors into that third corner. I wonder if as the race goes along, the Nocturne drivers will have a think about letting their two drivers swap, and letting Stevens have a go at Muscat. With Hamming that close to them, I don't think it's going to be worth it, because they may well end up losing while trying to gain. Or Crop to the outside. He's actually going to get quite a long way alongside Muscat here. He feels he has a claim to the corner. They're going to rub wheels. They bang once again on the exit. He has the DRS. And through as well comes Tom Stevens. Both of the Nocturne cars are going to freight train their way past Jason Muscat up the inside. Great move. Really, really well done. And Hamming sticks his nose in. Frank Hamming goes through, but he's going to be held out to dry on the outside. Muscat will be wondering what the heck happened there. And it's a Nocturne 1-2 as it stands. And the difference that lap was that Crop had enough of a run that it didn't really affect him too much that he was on the outside through that sweeper. He was able to get all the way alongside Jason Muscat and say to him, "You have to give me space here. I'm alongside you. I'm alongside you." And then he used that space to just go through. Wow, goodness me. I know I talk about drivers' ages quite a lot, but you have to remember, Moritz Krop and Tom Stevens here leading this race. They're both in their teens. Jason Muscat behind is not, no disrespect to him, he's experienced. But the two drivers in front of him, despite their relative youth, are driving with so much maturity here. And Moritz Krop there. Sorry, as we see, Muscat now has got the rear wing open. I think Stevens is being protected a little by the fact he still has DRS from Krop ahead. Yeah, especially Moritz there. He was very, very good with that overtake. Frank Hamming taking a look. Watson's dropped back a couple of places. Looks like his race never really got off to the start I was expecting it to. A memory of Ninu I see on the halo there. I believe that's Jason Muscat's father who passed away last year, I'm afraid. Because I seem to remember them running a commemorative livery at the Sao Paulo round, unless I'm very much mistaken. So a very nice little tribute on the halo of Jason Muscat's Multiforce car there. As someone drops down the order a bit. Tom Parker once again. Not having a great day, is he? Parker's an interesting one. He always either has a really, really good day or a really, really bad one. He never seems to just be there. And here's what happened. Whoopsie daisy, that's a big spin. Oh, very lucky not to collect Mateusz Jabinski. Goodness me. Down to P20 now. Oh, Muscat with a great run now. Frank Hamming with a great run on Muscat. To the outside, and proves that you don't need the inside line there to freight train your way past Jason Muscat. Wow. So Frank Hamming now up into P3. Can he go off to the Nocturne guys? Oh, Patterson's had an incident. Patterson was running 13th, which is where he'd finished in race 1. Oh, and Heiler almost runs into the back of Faber just in front of them. Was that out of the weight chicane, maybe? We're about to see a replay of it, and I think it was. No, it was out of the corner after this. It was out of the right-angled right-hander. You're about to see him get caught out by the curbs, I think. Easy to do. Runs way too wide. There's the cross. Oh, my goodness. Once again, she's been lucky to go away with that. Maybe in Faber, actually, because Faber was right around that. Yellow flags. Come on, guys, put your stuff together. It's Singleton, I'm afraid, who crashed out of race 1. Who's retired from race 2 now. Oh, Steven getting very close to Prop. Are they going to be allowed to fight? Or is this what do you want to do? Frank Adams right there. They've got to be wary of this. Got to be careful. Muscat still there waiting to pounce. Denahan, Watson, McGorgy. The DRS train goes all the way back to 9th. That's 1st to 9th. No time to rest. More yellows? Goodness me. Tom Parker again. He's out of the race now. Kenneth Singleton's incident, by the way, I've just had a look at that. It was by himself through 10-2. Again, one of the accident black spots of the day. Parker's was later around the lap, and it'll be at the weight chicane. Does he get involved with that car in front of him? Nah, he's going to lose it by himself, I'm afraid. Miles off into the gravel. I'd say he'd need a pass to get back in again, but he won't get back in again, so guess he saves money on that one. Through the S's. Go. The pack. Jake Denahan here. Maybe struggling on his hard tyres, but he hasn't really seemed to lose that much time in this race. He hasn't dropped back from Muscat ahead of him, and may really come into play towards the end of this race, as other people start to really think about their tyres. Mike Bell, oh, that's Martin Buchan, sorry. Martin Buchan in the Team Brit car has had an incident. We're about to see a replay of that one. Looks like it's going to be all by himself. And this reminds me of what happened at San Marino, where he retired from both races. Of course, he didn't retire from both races here, but he's not going to be scoring points. And Ziabinski's out now too. Race 2 does tend to have more DNFs than Race 1, just because there's less time, so everyone's pushing harder, and everyone's more tired. And is he going to be hit from behind? Or is he going to have a... Oh. Ah, that's a huge one. That is brutal on the exit of the weight chicane there. Slams into the barriers, and the car is absolutely torn to shreds. No wonder he's out of this race. That wasn't a case of crashing out and then, you know, deciding to retire because there's no point in continuing. He was out on the spot. Meanwhile, Philip Koenig just passed Gerrit de Vries for P19. They're outside of the points, but at this rate might work their way inside the points with how many people are dropping out and crashing into each other and bouncing off the barriers in all of this. I'm not trying to make it sound like these drivers are being silly by any means. They are very, very good drivers. These are extremely difficult cars to handle for this length of time, and of course an extremely difficult circuit as well. But I must admit, this isn't exactly the cleanest Formula Sprint 1 race I've ever seen. Pre-turn 2. Murray Watson now the fastest car of all, as he attempts to pass Jake Denahan. 124.7 is his fastest lap. That is pretty quick. It's about as quick as any lap we saw in race 1. So we're over halfway through this race now. Moritz Kropp continues to lead, followed by Tom Stevens, who is only half a second behind, but we don't know if they're going to be allowed to race at any point in this race. Of course, Kropp still needs to make sure he doesn't make any mistakes. If he does, and they're about to swap, Stevens goes to the outside of Kropp and goes through. So Tom Stevens, as we're talking about him, goes through into the lead of the race, and Kropp looked to very much let him through there. He was off the throttle, and I don't know why that would have been. I honestly cannot think of a reason for that. Yeah, watch the inputs here. You see them on the bottom right hand side of the screen. He's in 6th gear. He's only on something like half throttle there, and he's lifting off. Goes down into 5th super early, so he very much does expect and want Tom Stevens to go through. Could it be that Stevens is maybe struggling with his tyre life and he wants Crop to defend for him or something like that? I don't know. I mean, it's not championship positions. Crop is ahead of Stevens in the championship. And even then, it's very early and they insist that there's no kind of like explicit team orders where they go in saying, right, I'm the number 1, you're the number 2, or anything like that. So I'm a little baffled as to why they swapped so easily there, but anyway. The yellows, meanwhile, are for James Lambert, who's parked his car in the gravel, and he is now retired from this race as well. Both of the E-Team Brits drivers having an early shower, by the looks of things. Back onto the sweepers. This is where the Nocturne drivers swapped a lap ago. He close this time around as well. Hamming right on their tail. Hamming might go for a move here. He's got the DRS open, so has Crop. Ooh, covers him off. He's waiting for a better opportunity than that one. I don't really blame him, because that is a difficult corner to overtake at. Through the final corner of this particular lap. There'll be 6 laps to go. 7 actually, yes, because lap 19 will be inclusive. Right, so after a strange decision to swap the 2 Nocturne cars, they are 1-2, Stevens followed by Crop, and then it's Hamming, Muscat, Denahan. Watson is 6th, he's the fastest driver on track according to the fastest laps. Brian McGorgy, race 1 winner, is only 7th at this point in time, which is 1 position up from where he started. And then Darius Andre is 8th, Mike Quint is 9th, Alexander Rogoza, Menu Klont, Maciej Heiler. Here's a replay, sorry. Perseus Miram having a spin. Does he keep it out of the wall? Oh, he touched it slightly, but it was very much... he touched it on the very front, so I think he'll get away without any steering or suspension damage. Quickly back to the order. Faber's 13th, followed by Kardash and Lukaszewski. And that's those are the point scorers so far. And if Lukaszewski can hold off Vincent Gutt, who's all over his tail at this point in time, he may be on for his first career ladder points. Out of the final corner comes the train, the crocodile, the snake more like. From first all the way down to 8th. Down to 9th. 9 for the lead here in Albert Park. Last year we had a crazy finish to the what was then the Super Cup race, as Denahan has a look to Muscat, where everything just seemed to kick off in the last 5 or so laps of the race. Me and Jack Nichols were beside ourselves, if you remember that. Oh, Denahan on the grass, on the inside! Gets 2 wheels over the white line. Wow, that was brave. And he's going to lose time to Watson. Watson has the momentum now. Has a lot of momentum. He's catching. And not able to get through. That is not normally an overtaking opportunity that Denahan tried to force himself into there. On board with Owen McGorgy. Owen on his halo in bold letters, just so you know exactly who's driving that car. He had a rather bitter end to last season when he picked up too many penalty points and had to sit out a few rounds. But as Gerrit de Vries is now retired from this race. But Owen has had an awesome start to this season and appears to have calmed down somewhat as well behind the wheel of the car. Let's take a look back at what happened to that, as Quint, meanwhile, has just passed Andre. Oh, Andre's had an incident, sorry. Andre's had a little spin there. We're looking at Gerrit de Vries' accident, but Andre's lost his front wing. So Darius Andre, who is running in 8th position, is now attempting to get his car back to the pits. But that has really dampened his race. That was on the exit of turn 2. And what you're going to see here is exactly what's been happening to so many drivers over the course of today, just losing control of the car out of the second corner and bouncing off the walls. That's going to put, Rogoza goes up to P9 now, but that's going to put Menno Klont up into the top 10. Oh, Watson all over the grass there. McGorgy up the inside. That's for P6. Leaves his break in later. McGorgy goes through. And Quint's there. Ooh. Quint having to back out of it. He saw how aggressively Watson wanted to defend that win. I'm not sure Watson's made an overtake all day. He's been doing well. He's been very quick. It's just he hasn't quite had the ability to pass cars on the road, and that's what's kind of costing him opportunities for podiums here. Definitely has to pace for it. But now he's stuck behind Owen McGorgy. Only 20 cars remaining in this race now. This really has been a race of attrition, considering it's been such a relatively short race. I mean, it's only just over half the length of race 1. And even so, we've had more retirements. And I'm not even sure they'll be over yet. 15 cars score points, so it's very much worth finishing the race at this point. Who knows how many other cars in front of you are going to drop out. Actually, Heiler's just come around the outside of Menno Klont for 10th place. Goodness. Down into the weight chicane. Great move from Heiler. He's on the hard tyre, so he may suddenly be coming into play here. And this would be his best result at this level as well, I think. As you watch Jake Dennehan still in 5th place on his hard tyres. I think Heiler has done some FS1 races so far this year. Yeah, he did. He did the last 2 rounds. Oh, sorry, the last round in Bahrain. DNF'd in race 1, finished 19th in race 2. So a top 10 finish would be quite something for Mathieu there. And he would be over the moon. The top 3 cars were briefly within a second through the last checkpoint there. They still are. They're getting away now from Jason Muscat. Muscat having to fend off Dennehan now, but the 3 leaders are right back together. Now I wonder whether they're going to swap on the last lap, because considering, I mean, I'm confused about why they swapped in the first place. And considering there's not supposed to be any team audits here. Yeah, you gotta wonder what they're doing. Anyway. Niels Tiemann pointing out that Damien Kardash has gained... Oh, and Heiler's hit the wall! Oh! I was just complimenting him. Commentator's curse there for Mathieu. Sorry, just finished my point. Niels Tiemann was saying that Damien Kardash has gained 16 places since this race has started. Started 29th, he's up to 30th. Not bad whatsoever, and he's going to gain another place since Heiler will have to return to the pits, missing his front wing. That also puts Menno Klont back into the top 10 now. And Darius Andres had another incident. So Andres not even going to come away with points from this. After finishing 2nd in race 1, he's out of this race. Okay. Shame for Heiler, shame for Andre, shame for everyone else who's retired so far in this race. We'll only have one more lap after this one. One more lap to see who is going to win this race. Stevens, Kropp, or Hamming. If Stevens makes a mistake by himself, Kropp will be well and truly entitled to go through and win the race on his own merit. That's what happened at Bahrain. They actually swapped twice in that way, with one of them making a mistake and the other one, the other one going, "I'll take that, thank you very much." Final lap of the race now. We have a 3-way showdown for the win here in Albert Park. Muscat fending off a train of his own in the background. down towards turn 3. The second DRS straight is done. Just one more DRS zone on this lap now. And the main question is, do the nocturnes swap back, and do they dare? Because Frank Hamming might well take it straight back again if they attempt to. Here comes the chasing pack. Ready to pick up the pieces if anything happens, of course. Not that I hope it will. This is where Kropp gave way to Stevens. Stay in position. Out of the weight chicane. Final DRS zone has passed them by. Just a few more corners to go. There's a little bit of traffic up ahead of them, who shouldn't come into play at this point. They should just about start the last lap before they pass him. And Tom Stevens exits the final corner and wins the sprint race here at Albert Park just ahead of his teammate. It is a nocturne 1-2 in slightly strange circumstances, but Steven wins, followed by Kropp, then Hamming, Denahan, Muscat, McGorgy, Watson, Quint, Rogoza. Clont will be P10, then Adrian Faber, Damien Kardash, Vincent Gert, Philip Koenig, and Rafael Lukaszewski looks if he's going to pick up a point on his debut at this level. Good stuff at the end of the race there. Missing out will be Perseus Miram, Craig Patterson, Meg Bell, and Maciej Heiler, as well as everyone who retired from the race and failed to see the checkered flag. But what a race up front there from Stevens, Kropp, and Hamming, close all the way through. That was a much more entertaining race than race 1, if you ask me. Much more tense. And even though we didn't end up seeing a change of positions on the last lap, we saw a fight pretty much all the way through. I'm looking forward to the interviews, though. I'm looking forward to hearing Moritz explain why he let Tom through. Because it'll be news to me. Let's read some YouTube comments while we're waiting. Oh, Tom Parker's there after his DNFs. He says, I said it's just a talent thing. What I found hilarious was my car felt better after my turn 1 spin. Must have warmed the tyres up. Yes, that's how you do it. Would have warmed the tyres up, but it would have also made them look like 50p pieces. There you see the order scrolling past you on the screen once again. I'm going to say, in terms of driver of the day, it's a difficult one because we had a completely different podium in both races. I'm probably actually going to say Jake Denahan. I think Jake did a fantastic job on track in both races. Played a good team game in race 1. Didn't take out his teammate when he very well could have done. And then in race 2, of course, maybe it was a mistake to go on the hard tyres, but I mean, he had good pace, and 5th place in the end isn't bad whatsoever. So yeah, I'm going to say Jake Denahan for driver of the day, but you can disagree with me if any of you feel anything different. And we can finally now speak to Moritz Kropp. Moritz, are you there? Jolly good. So first of all, I am dying to know, why did you guys swap in race 2 there? So you weren't complaining like, no, I'm the championship leader, my points, mine. Just quickly, Szymon, I'm being told in the YouTube chat we actually can't hear Moritz right now. Everyone commenting that Moritz is not being picked up by the broadcast. Is that something you can fix?
Oh yeah, because I did cameras. Yeah.
Okay. Apparently, we should be able to hear Moritz now. Moritz, sorry, could you just very quickly reiterate what you were saying about race 2 there, why you let Stevens through, and just the race in general?
Yeah. Okay. So we thought that it would be a better decision to let Tom go past me. My tires were already worn out quite a bit, and we thought that this might be better because Tom was a lot faster than me on the straight, and I wanted to drag myself along with that, which worked pretty well. And I got a little bit more tire back at the end of the race, which was pretty important to the race with Frank. So yeah.
Fantastic. It was pretty tense on that last lap there. Frank was all over your tail there. Were you worried about it?
Yeah, but we were for like all of the, 15 laps he was behind us. So I was so close. Like one mistake and we would have been like P2 and P3 or something. So I don't know. We really have to work on our pace on general, and yeah.
Fantastic. Well, you still ended up with a 1-2 at the end of that. It sounds like you guys have a really strong bond if you're, that willing to give up race wins for each other and pay back races that may have been disappointing. Were you guys talking about it? Were you like in a Discord call or something during the race?
We're talking to each other with Toby together, who does a great job, by the way. Incredible work again from all the boys, also Tom Ely. But I think like in the first few races that it was like that, and we talked about it and was like, yeah, so you do that and I'm gonna do that. I don't like it, but hey, I'm gonna do it. But to be honest, if you want to win a championship, you have to do it. And so close this year, if you just the tiniest fuck up will let you go down to 9th or something, like I did in quali. So we really want to win this championship, and I think that is our main motivation to do it. Really.
Final question: would you like to apologize for your language?
Oh, my language, yeah. I'm sorry. I'm not good at English. Who said it?
No, it's okay. I'm just no. Never mind. It's okay. Emotions are running high. Thank you very much for talking to us, Moritz, and we're now going to talk to Toby and Tom, if that's okay. But yeah, congratulations on that second place there, and I believe you continue to lead the championship. So well done.
I hope, yeah. Thank you very much.
Okie dokie. Let us move on now to Tom Stevens. Don't worry, we will get around to the team boss, Toby Davis, in a second. Tom, congratulations. You've won race 2 there. And honestly, I think you guys might be the most wholesome team in the sport. You're always willing to help each other out. And Moritz really helped you out there, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in sim racing, you get nowhere if you just battle your teammate all the time. So it's crucial to work together. And yeah, it would have been a lot more difficult in both races if we didn't work as a team.
Well, it worked out. A 1-2 at the end as well. It was pretty close with Frank behind. Whose idea was it to swap places, and kind of what was the conversation like as you were discussing it?
Well, for this round, we've got very different setups on. So I'm on like a low drag setup and Moritz is on higher drag. So on the straight, it just got close and we just decided to swap. And we thought it was best to have the cars this way around to keep Frank behind. So yeah.
Amazing. It really is a team effort. Race 1 as well. I didn't actually talk to Moritz about race 1, but that was a pretty good one too. You didn't quite have the pace that we've seen at some of the previous rounds, but still a decent points tally at the end of it. I mean, you kept it intact. You didn't lose too many places. So are you feeling okay about that?
Yeah, well, it's race 2 is a really good recovery on what went wrong in race 1. We just made some silly mistakes that can definitely be ironed out. Like in the pit stop, we just accidentally uncancelled the pit request, so then an extra
Yes.
5 seconds, and if we would have got it right, I would have come out, I think, P3 with the way that we were doing it.
Darius
But-
did the same thing.
Oh, really?
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's just easy just to focus on battling someone, and then you press the pit request button, but then it's already come up by itself, and then you just cancel it. But there you go.
Anyway, thank you very much, and congratulations on your race win there. That's your second of the season, and yeah, you're motoring along right now.
Yeah, right. Thank you, and I've got to say, great job to everyone in THR, because it would be a lot more difficult if it wasn't for all the help. So yeah, thank you guys.
Well, you can say that to your team boss now, because we are about to bring him in. Toby cannot hear us yet because he is deafened, so let me drop him. Ah, he's here. Jolly good. Toby, you just seen your guys come home 1-2. Fantastic performance.
Yeah, it was a. Thank you very much. It was a bit of a recovery after a suboptimal qualifying session for us. Yeah, Moritz and Tom was like 2/10 off his PB, and Moritz off about 4/10 off his PB. So yeah, it wasn't ideal. So yeah, I'm proud of how we managed to come back from that. So yeah, so to be honest, we didn't lose too much in this round. We salvaged a decent round. It's a long championship. But once again, Tom and Moritz drove really well, and yeah, Tom Ely set the car up nicely for us, so it was all good.
You're like Mercedes have been the last few years. You're not always, I mean, you're usually the fastest team out there, but even when you don't have the fastest setup, you somehow still manage to bag a 1-2 finish at the end of all of it.
Yeah.
How are you so good? I'm just gonna say it.
We thank you. We do try and do pretty much everything that we can to maximize every opportunity we get. So, you know, if the boys do qualify a little bit lower in qualifying, there are things you can do to improve the race position at the end, and we did that. And then of course we were sort of relying on the race to catch back up, you know. So it was one of those where we didn't push too hard in race one, didn't want to finish third and fourth, and then potentially be battling with the same people again, maybe being overtaken. We thought we'd maximize race two. So it was an early decision for us to do that. And at the end of the day, you play the long game in the championship. But yeah, it was we are good, but we're not amazing. I mean, we could have had a better qualifying. So yeah, things to reflect and work on.
It always just amazes me though how well your drivers get on together. How much they kind of just do what they're asked, and you know, and even sometimes want to pay each other back for things that have happened in previous races. It's really wholesome, actually.
Thank you.
Is there anything? Is there
Yeah.
anything you've done to kind of like foster that environment, or has it just happened?
I think we just have a really positive Discord. You know, everyone's really kind of friendly towards each other. We have a good community atmosphere here, and we sort of just try to avoid those who are, you know, we don't have any toxic members on our Discord and so on. And I think we stay humble and try to do our best to be as humble as possible with each other, you know, and Tom and Moritz both really like each other and they get on really well. And you know, don't complain when things go bad. And yeah, it's just a wicked team to be part of, and I'm very grateful to have two fantastic drivers in FS1, and be, you know, really pushing forward for both championships is kind of a bonus, really. At the end of the day, we're here to have fun and a nice time in a positive atmosphere, so it's great.
Is fantastic and something I'd love to see more of in sim racing. Congratulations on your 1-2, and I'm so looking forward to seeing you guys race each other again at the next few rounds.
Thank you. Well done on the broadcast. I'll watch it back tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okie dokie. Well, we did have a few more people to interview, but unfortunately they all appear to have left the waiting room. Probably because I took such a long time with the THR guys, but they had a lot to say, and they did such a good job there in that second race. Shame we aren't going to get to speak to Aaron McGorky though after his race 1 victory, but anyway, maybe next time. Oh, and if you're watching, congratulations anyway. You did a fantastic job today as well. So that's the lot for us today. Thank you all for watching today's broadcast, and also thank you to Szymon Frelik for the cameras, the sights and sounds that you've been seeing, and of course the stream. Jack Mayer, of course, is the broadcast director, the broadcast team leader. He helped set up the stream. And I have been your commentator, Caitlin Penny. In a week's time, we're going to be going for, so we're going to have the Super Lights and then the main Super League Grand Prix here at Australia. And then in 2 weeks' time, we're going to be at Portimao. Yes, that's going to be entertaining. A lot more overtaking opportunities to Portimao, a lot more elevation change. Definitely be here for that one. Okay, good night, everyone.